Hey Alderman, Pastor Wyatt here. I'm really excited to talk to you about this series that we're going to be beginning in the month of May on Jesus, sex, and gender. And this idea of our sexuality, the fact that we've been created as sexual beings, it is such a hot topic today. It is the biggest conversation that our world is having. Our kids are getting it in school. It's being talked about in the newspapers and on cable TV shows and in podcasts. Everybody right now is talking about what is human sexuality? How do we experience the fullness of life as sexual creatures? And the Bible just speaks so powerfully to this topic. If we're gonna represent Jesus as a church, we gotta know what God says about our sexuality and what He invites us into to experience the fullness of life. And so we're gonna be diving into this topic in the month of May. And I think often when the church has talked about sexuality, we've really just talked about kind of the rules of what we're allowed to do and what we're not allowed to do, what's good, what's bad, and that's important. But there's so much more because God has an intent and a purpose behind why He created us as sexual beings. And so we're going to start by talking about that. We're going to start by just talking about what does the Bible give us as the reason for our sexuality. And we're going to dive into some of the more hot topics of our day. We're going to talk in week 2 about LGBTQ issues. And we're actually going to invite somebody out. His name's Preston Sprinkle. He's one of the leading voices in this topic right now in the church. And we're really excited to have him as our guest. He's going to be preaching in the morning on May 15th. And then we're also going to have a special evening seminar on the 15th that I want to invite you to. We're going to dive more into the idea of gender and what the Bible has to say about gender, transgenderism, and all of these topics that are so pressing today. And so I really want you to come. It's from 4:30 to 7:30. We're going to provide dinner. We're going to provide childcare. We're going to take care of every obstacle that might keep you from being there because we want you to be equipped to love people in the name of Jesus right now. And this is a conversation that you're just not going to be able to get out of. It's in your workplace. It's in your neighborhood. Your kids are talking about it. It's on the shows that you're watching. And so we want you to be ready to represent Jesus. And that means more than just knowing the right answers. John 1 tells us that Jesus came full of grace and truth. And we want to embody that. We want to be people who are full of grace, who love people who are different than us, who love people who are Christians, who love people who are not Christians, who love people who agree and disagree. But we want to do that full of truth at the same time, knowing what God has said about who we are and how He's created us and what that means as we love the people in our life. So we're going to do that. And finally, in our series, we're going to have a week on talking about marriage and singleness and what marriage is and what singleness is and what God's plan might look like for us in that area of life. And finally, in our last week, we're going to talk about what it looks like to become a church that loves the broken. And of course, step 1 in that is remembering that that's us. The idea of being a follower of Jesus is not that you have everything together, that there's broken people out in the world and there's people who are all put together inside the church. That's not it. We are broken. Jesus came for us, and we get the privilege of sharing that news with the world around us who desperately needs Jesus. That's what we're about. I can't wait to see what Jesus does for our church. Please join us in praying for this series and praying that God would really use it to help our church better represent Jesus in the world around us. We'll see you then.